There were a lot of Republicans when the president lost in 2020. I was in different fundraisers, and I would watch people who were diehard Trump guys in 2016 through 2020. And they started saying, well, you know what? What are you going to do to distance yourself from the president? Because he's becoming very, he needs to stop talking about, and he needs to do this, and what he's talking about. And are you more Team DeSantis? And you kind of watched certain communities turn on the president very quickly, and they were no longer worried about his threats. There was a midterm that they thought it was going to be a red wave, didn't happen. Like, well, the president's endorsement is no longer as heavy as it was before. So who knows? These politicians sometimes won't show the fear unless if that person gets more and more powerful. So maybe they're not afraid of Trump, afraid of Musk right now, but in the next 2 to 3 years, 4 years, if they see Musk is more serious about what he wants to do, maybe they'll flip. Who knows?
Look, I don't think that any of these people are loyal to Trump. Most of them didn't even come out and support him when he first filed to run for the second time, right after the stolen election. They sat on the sidelines. I mean, a lot of them were kind of waiting, especially here in Florida. Everyone was like, oh, well, DeSantis is going to run. It was already, an open secret. I'm the one that forced it out of DeSantis when I almost got arrested at his book signing. And that's the first time that I had met President Trump before, but that's when my closeness, right, in terms of my access to Trump and the campaign really began. And that was in the aftermath of President Trump announcing the second time around. If you recall, Ron DeSantis was doing a shadow presidential campaign via his book tour. And I showed up. I organized no, that's a Comey. I think if you just go type in Trump supporters threatened with arrest at DeSantis book signing. You could type it in on Google or whatever browser you use. So I knew that Ron DeSantis was going to be running. I had just finished a 2022 congressional campaign, and I had known, right? I had known that I've known since 2021, actually, that Ron DeSantis was going to run for president, because some of my donors for my campaign, right, these Palm Beach millionaires, billionaires, I had lunch with one of them one day, and he's an older guy, right? I won't say his name just to protect his privacy, but very well-off individual, lives on Palm Beach Island. Mega donor, right, who lives in Florida on Palm Beach Island. And he wanted to catch up and have lunch and just talk about things. And we were having lunch one day and, just chit chat. Oh, how's everything going? Oh, it's great. What are you up to? Oh, I just, left this fundraiser for Ron DeSantis last night. And mind you, this was 2021. This was about a week after January 6th. Okay. Week after January 6th or so, 2 weeks after January 6th. And he's like, oh, I just left this fundraiser hosted by, another big donor. I won't say their name for the sake of privacy. And, we raised $2 million for Ron DeSantis. And he asked me to be on his presidential finance committee. Mind you, the guy who I'm having lunch with in 2021, right after J6, he's almost 80, right, at this time. So I figured he's having a senior moment. Oh, presidential, because we were not even into 2022 yet. Right, which is when Governor Ron DeSantis had his reelection campaign. So I gently correct him, right, trying not to embarrass him at lunch. Oh, you mean gubernatorial? And he's like, no. He doubles down. He goes, no, it's presidential finance. And I said, no, you're talking about his gubernatorial, right? And then I'm starting to get frustrated because he goes, no, his presidential. I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, 2022 hasn't even happened yet. He's running for governor. What are you talking about? And he goes, oh, I wasn't supposed to mention that. Don't talk about it.
This is in 2021.
Yeah, 2021. So he was already forming his presidential finance committee in the aftermath of J6. Mind you, it was literally 2 weeks after January 6th. Because I remember I was out of the country. I was in El Salvador for January 6th. And I came back, I think, on the 15th. And so this was 2 or 3 weeks after J6. And I remember sitting there holy shit, he's running for president. This is crazy. And so I knew all throughout my entire second congressional campaign when I ran in the villages in Central Florida that Ron DeSantis was going to run against Trump. And so naturally, I just really developed this animosity towards Ron DeSantis. And I knew that his book tour was going to just be a shadow presidential campaign because it was Rupert Murdoch who hates Trump. And Rupert Murdoch gave him a book deal through HarperCollins Publishing, which was his book his publishing company. So I staged the idea. I said, all right, let's force it out of him. Nobody wants to take the first shot at Ron, and he's denying the fact that he's running for president. So I had this idea. I said, why don't I organize a rally? It's not going to be a protest. It's going to be a rally in support of Trump outside of Ron DeSantis' book signing for the first ever book appearance for his new book, right? The Blueprint for Florida, whatever it was called. And he did it in my district. It happened to be in the district where I ran for Congress. And I showed up. There was nothing anti-DeSantis about it. We were all wearing Trump shirts that said Trump won. And all of a sudden, the video's online, I think you can play it, this security guard comes out from Books A Million and goes, you need to leave. And I was like, why? We're Trump supporters. Isn't this Ron DeSantis? Like, I thought he supports Trump, right? Obviously, I'm being tongue-in-cheek because I know what's going on. I know what's going on, which is why I did what I did. And then eventually the guy goes, I'm going to have you guys arrested. I'm calling the cops if you don't leave. And I said, why would you arrest us? We're Trump supporters. I thought Ron DeSantis was a MAGA governor. What's going on? And he goes, I was just told by DeSantis and his staff that I have to make every Trump person leave. And that's what he said in the video. You can play the video. And this video must have been seen like 27 million times. I mean, it was the video that finally made it safe. It broke the ice for people to finally say, all right, Ron DeSantis is running for president. Because nobody had the balls to do it. Or nobody had the balls to do it.
Play the clip.
And they weren't that long with their police department? Yes. Why? Because of what you're wearing? Because they told me to say anybody running Trump has to go right now. What's your plan? I'm sorry, guys. I have to call an LPD now.
That's fine.
Wow. So the security screwed it up for him.
Well, he's being honest.
No, he is. But they flat out. So here's a guy that becomes a governor because, did this cause him to not want to promote the book more because he was worried people like you were going to show up?
He was using the book to get away with violating campaign finance laws. So you have to announce, right? You have to officially announce your campaign within, a certain period if you're already like discussing, fundraising and hiring staff, and you have like an actual set date, right? There's rules about exploratory committees and when you have to file. And so I was making the argument that Ron DeSantis was in violation of FEC rules and FEC laws because he had already been formulating his presidential campaign because, people were telling me they were having meetings, and he was using the governor's mansion in Tallahassee to host all these meetings with campaign officials. Now everybody knows this, right? It's like the biggest open secret of 2024. Everybody's come clean about it. But and books have been written about it. But at the time, people were in denial. They're like, This is not the case. And so I had called out the fact that this was Rupert Murdoch's way to flush DeSantis with money because he didn't own a home. He didn't own a car. He doesn't own anything. He doesn't have anything. Even now, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't own any assets. And so if you look at his financial disclosure forms, how is he going to go up against President Trump, who is an accomplished author, a businessman, a billionaire? And so this was their strategy to have Ron DeSantis have a couple $1 million in his bank account before he officially announced his run for president so that he didn't look pathetic running against Donald Trump, who's a billionaire. I mean, this is true. Ron DeSantis doesn't own a car. He does not own a home. So when he and his wife, Casey, Jill, leave the governor's mansion after 2026, who knows where they're going to go? They don't even have a residence.
Ron DeSantis doesn't own a home?
No, he doesn't own a home.
You're right. I just looked it up. Ron DeSantis doesn't own a home.
And he doesn't own a car either. It may have changed, but he got caught using FDLE vehicles outside of their designated purpose, right? So this is the kind of stuff I was calling him out for. He doesn't own anything. You could see he doesn't own a car. He was using a campaign event, and this is how he got caught not owning a car, is because he was using an FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement vehicle, and they got in a car accident. The car got in an accident. They had to report it, and then a reporter found out about it. And Ron DeSantis
was driving it, then he got the car?
He was traveling in the car to a campaign fundraiser, which is a violation because you're not allowed to use taxpayer funds. Those are taxpayer-funded vehicles for the sake of campaigning. And so that's how people found out about it.
So you're saying what? You're saying the book was a way of getting some kind of money in his...
The book was a way of helping him because they were promoting it nonstop. He was selling it. They bought all these advanced copies. The Republican Governors Association, RGA, bought thousands of copies of the book that they were giving as, gifts to donors. So creating this facade, right? This astroturfed image that, wow, oh, he must be so popular. Wow, he got a book deal. Wow, it's, Rupert Murdoch's publishing company. Wow, he's all over the New York Post and Wall Street Journal, not disclosing the fact that Rupert Murdoch, who's being sued by Trump, by the way, rightfully so, owns Fox News. He owns the Wall Street Journal. He owns the New York Post. And so this is how they were able to gaslight everybody and astroturf a campaign and make everybody think that he was more popular than Donald Trump. So I was like the main person calling this out and like really taking aggressive shots at people, political operatives, exposing people for taking money on the side, going to these private influencer dinners with DeSantis. And that's when I got a phone call from Trump. I don't usually answer unknown numbers. And after I was threatened with arrest at that event, I got a phone call. And it was and something just compelled me. You ever like feel compelled to do something that you don't usually do? Something compelled me to answer this unknown call. And so I answered the phone. It's like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night after I almost just got arrested. And I'm like, hello? And it's like, hi, Laura, this is your favorite president. And I thought it was a prank call. Like, honestly, I thought that somebody was prank calling me. I said, no, really, honestly, don't waste my time. Who is this? I said that on the phone. And they're like, oh, it's your favorite president. I loved what you did to DeSanctimonious today. And Trump and I had about a 15, 20-minute phone call. And he said that he loved it, said, Ron DeSantis was such a snake for running against him, that he owes his entire political career, and that the video finally basically allowed the campaign to get more aggressive against Ron DeSantis. And he said, I think you're great. I really think you're great. I want you to come and meet with me at Mar-a-Lago. And he put me in touch with his staff and a scheduler. And about 2 weeks later, I drove down from at the time I was living in Central Florida, the Villages. I drove down from the Villages to Mar-a-Lago, and I met with the president. And it was in his office that he started asking me all these questions about people, and I was just able to rattle off all this intel and tell him things that his own advisors and his staff hadn't told him.
Do you trust Ron DeSantis today?
I mean,
because him and President Trump are now closer. There's pictures of, his wife golfing with the president, and the president has Ron coming, and they're looking all like everything is good now. There was even a meeting, I think about 6 weeks ago, in a video where, Ron is saying he's being complimentary of the president.
Well, that was the opening of Alligator Alcatraz, and the president came down. Look, I think that Ron DeSantis is trying to rehabilitate his political career because he lost so much good faith. Mind you, DeSantis doesn't have a base, okay? It's the MAGA base on lease from President Trump, who was graciously renting him his own base so that he could develop his own political career. He was a no-name congressman. He was a no-name congressman in 2017, 2018. He wasn't even going to get the endorsement. Adam Putnam had all the endorsements. And then it wasn't until Matt Gaetz went into Mar-a-Lago and said, oh, there's this guy. He's my friend. You have to endorse him. And it shocked everybody. Everybody was so pissed about it because they thought, there was so much money, hundreds of millions of dollars behind Adam Putnam. And all of a sudden, Trump endorsed this no-name congressman, Ron DeSantis, and he was able to beat Adam Putnam. And then he barely won his election against Andrew Gillum. And he would not. But he crushed it on the second time, it was about 34,000 votes, and they had to, have it was very contentious.
I remember that. I don't want to take anything away. He crushed it as a governor. I'm not sitting here saying that. I also think he made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I've openly said it when I had him on. My position hasn't changed, but now when I'm watching this on how the president is comfortable being next to him, and it's. So you're saying this is Ron's way of trying to get back in the good graces of the president?
Yeah, I don't trust Ron. I mean, look, I don't personally trust Ron DeSantis. I think that he's playing a political game and he's trying to rehabilitate his career. I think that had he not run against the president, maybe Trump would have endorsed Casey over Byron. But I think that so much bad blood was created, and especially after Casey then tried to run for governor of Florida, and then her whole, prospective campaign got blown up with the Hope Florida scandal. I think that he realizes, crap, I don't own a home. I don't own a car. People hate me. I'm now viewed as a traitor. I don't know how I'm going to recover my image. And so maybe he's hoping for some kind of political appointments, because where's he going to go? What's he going to do? Unless he gets hired to go work as some, contractor at some defense company, or they fire someone from the Trump administration and they make Ron DeSantis a political appointee.
Maybe he's going to go buy a car and a house. Maybe it's time to buy a car and a house and kind of go do what Many Americans do. If he doesn't own a car and a house, like, it's time to buy a car and a house.
Hey everybody, Laura Loomer here. I'm so excited to finally announce that I've joined Minect. So please be sure that you connect with me on Minect. I can't wait to chat with you, whether it be about politics, investigative journalism, or if you just want to talk to me about your furry friends and how you too can get involved in my passion of animal rescue. Whatever it is, I can't wait for you to connect with me on Minect. So be sure that you contact me today.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.